What's up guys, the Disciple of the Howder here, back with a new countdown about my top 10 favorite video game protagonists. Over the years, video games have given rise to dozens of great protagonists. Whether they act as great role models, have performed amazing feats, or are just purely entertaining to watch, everyone has their own preferences for what they like in a main character. Same rules as usual here. Only characters from games I played, only one per series, no characters originating from anime, comics, film, yada yada yada, you know the drill. So, without further ado, let's get started. When most people bring up heroes from the Mega Man series, typically the most common culprit is Zero. And for good reason. And yeah, Zero will always be a badass character in my book. But there's actually one other character from the series that I admire even more. Starting off this list, we have the main man of the Mega Man X series himself, Mega Man X. Or just X for short. So why do I prefer X over Zero? Honestly, I like seeing X grow as each game progresses. As Egoraptor exemplified in the Sequelitis episode, the whole of the Mega Man X games are built around the idea of X improving as a warrior and character, and I really like seeing it all take place. I also really admire X's personality. Despite being a pacifist at heart and just wanting humans and Reploids to coexist peacefully, he's willing to fight with absolutely everything he has if that peace is threatened. It's characters like this that sometimes make me forget that the majority of characters in the Mega Man series are in fact robots because of just how human they think and act, and I think X is the best example of that. Nothing against Zero, I just find myself emphasizing with X more, which is what lands him in the number 10 spot. Okay, say what you want about Star Wars, say what you want about George Lucas, but I'm saying this right now. The Force Unleashed is a great game, and Starkiller is a great protagonist. What makes Starkiller a great protagonist in my eyes is how different he is among others who have been in his position. Even at the very beginning of the game, you can tell that he's nothing like other Sith warriors through his surprisingly casual and even somewhat sarcastic conversations with the characters around him, like Proxy and Juno. In addition, Starkiller is also extremely determined. He will stop at absolutely nothing to see a job through, no matter how much the odds are stacked against him or how much punishment he may take. And of course, that brings us to what everyone knows Starkiller for, his completely insane connection to the Force. Starkiller can do things with the Force that past Force sensitives could only dream of doing. And even with all that behind him, he still chooses to rebel against Vader and the dark side and walk the path of good. You know that old saying about absolute power? Yeah, Starkiller is taking that saying, crumpling it up, frying it with lightning, and tossing it out an airlock. His time may have been brief, but Starkiller is proof that the grip of the dark side is not inescapable. Alright, you knew this was coming eventually, but really, how can you not love Mario, at least to a certain extent? Even though Mario may not be big on personality, he's one of those characters that you can't help but love just because of the sheer amount of stuff he's done. I mean, think about it. Mario's traversed the entire Mushroom Kingdom, on multiple occasions, traveled across the world in the paintings of Peach's castle, and even the entire galaxy itself, fighting off entire armies, giant monsters, giant robots, ghosts, you name it, he's done it. And if a character can do all that and make it a ton of fun every time, well, that's a great protagonist in my book. You rock, Mario. What's not to love about Strider Hiryu? The guy is a ninja from the future who managed to become the youngest Special A-Class Strider ever at only 18 years old. He's skilled enough to single-handedly take down divine beings, multiple times no less, and can break the sound barrier just by swinging his weapon. Not only that, but Hiryu actually has a very admirable personality, which is certainly a switch as far as ninjas go. Despite having both a well-known reputation preceding him and the skills to back it up, he doesn't let it all go to his head. Instead, Hiryu is actually very stern and professional, being able to keep his cool even in the most extreme circumstances, including being forced to kill both his best friend and his own sister. And even after all that, he still chooses to put his own personal vendettas aside and take up the Strider title for the sake of the greater good. Hiryu is also one of those characters who's a joy to watch in action. He's so fast that hardly anyone can even keep up with him while he proceeds to hack away at them with his signature weapon, the Cypher. And remember when I said that he's able to break the sound barrier just by swinging that thing? Yeah, that's not some fancy one-time trick he can only do every once in a while. It's literally every time he swings. Finally, Ryu just has that general awesome factor to him. I mean, look at this guy. He's got one of the most badass character designs in the history of anything. Even though Ryu may be one of the more overlooked ninjas in gaming, he's without question one of the best, as well as my favorite. And with a new Strider game finally on the horizon, it looks like Ryu will finally be able to leave his mark on the gaming world once again.
Sonic's the name, speed's my game.
Sonic the freaking Hedgehog. While it's true that Sonic's reputation may have been on shaky ground for the past few years, honestly, how could I not put him on here? Sonic is nearly as iconic a character as Mario, and not to mention,
He's the fastest thing alive!
Now, admittedly, some people tend to view Sonic as a very annoying character, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't see where they're coming from. Sonic is definitely more expressive than many other characters, being extremely hyperactive, relatively cocky, and, well, kind of a jerk at times. But at the same time, he does know how to put a positive spin on a bad situation, and he just knows how to have a good time while saving the world. And honestly, that's what I think makes him a good, enjoyable protagonist. But honestly, the main reason I like Sonic is one that I don't hear talked about a lot, and that's just how much of a mystery he is. I mean, think about it. Outside the persona the games present him with, we actually know very little about Sonic. Where did he come from? How was he blessed with his super speed? What happened to his parents? How did he and Eggman become mortal enemies? Why does he have such a huge fetish for chili dogs? Well, unanswered questions aside, with a great attitude, interestingly mysterious background, and one of the most ingenious designs ever, Sonic lands at the number 6 spot with no trouble at all. Just don't let him get under your skin. I never said all my favorite protagonists were technically good guys. Even though calling Laharl a bad guy would be pushing it a bit, but... Okay, let's start over. Like our old pal Dante, who just barely missed out on this list, by the way, Laharl is a demon-human hybrid and heir to the Netherworld throne after the death of his father, King Kerchevskoy. While he has the appearance of only a young teenager, Laharl is actually over 1,300 years old and is one of the most powerful beings in the Netherworld. Not only being able to reclaim his father's throne, but also being able to overpower the Seraph of Heaven himself, and being the only character in the entire Nipponichi universe to canonically defeat the tyrant overlord Baal. But that's not the only reason why Laharl's on it. No, the main reason Laharl is one of my favorite protagonists is very simple.
This guy cracks me up!
Seriously, this guy has got to be one of the funniest, most entertaining characters I've ever seen. Now, of course, that's to be expected with the Nipponichi series, but I feel Laharl is the prime representative of this humor. Between the numerous hilarious interactions between him and other characters, particularly Etna and Flan, combined with how expressive he is facially, there is very rarely a dull moment whenever he's on screen. His personality is also entertaining to boot. Despite being extremely arrogant and snarky, as well as being determined to be the most evil overlord the Netherworld has ever seen, being a demon-human hybrid has allowed him to harbor a great deal of good within him, though he tries to mask it whenever possible. Like I said before, calling Laharl evil would really be pushing it, as a lot of his so-called evil doings are mostly just petty acts of bullying. This not-so-evilness is also shown in his weaknesses. Laharl, the big bad overlord of Disgaea, is literally hurt by optimistic sayings and women with voluptuous bodies. Okay, as hilarious as that is, that could be a bit of a problem in the gaming world. I also have to give props to Laharl's design, which I can only describe as being surprisingly memorable. I don't know, maybe it's his hair antenna things, maybe it's that awesome scarf, which can turn into a pair of wings, by the way, or that intimidating yet at the same time kind of goofy smirk of his. Well, whatever it is, it freaking works. So with all that behind him, Laharl may not be the greatest role model of all time, but he's one of the best protagonists, whether he wants to be or not. this guy. This freaking guy is in a league all his own. Not only is Solid Snake extremely skilled at what he does, loyal to his comrades, very intelligent, scared of freaking nothing, and surprisingly humble for someone of his character, but he straight up cares. But in all honesty, what can I say about Solid Snake that hasn't already been said twice over? Go look up any other list for greatest characters or heroes or protagonists or whatever along those lines. Chances are Snake is at least in the top 5, as he rightfully should be. He may be a clone, but he proves to be one of the most human of all of us. We salute you, Snake. I'm sure a lot of you watching this right now are probably thinking something along the lines of, "Whoa, who is that?" Well, I'm not surprised if you're not familiar with this guy, so I'll give you a little introduction. Haken Browning is the protagonist of Endless Frontier, a spin-off of the Super Robot Wars series. As a baby, Haken was found, along with his android partner Ashen, aboard a crash ship by a bounty hunter by the name of John Moses. After being taken in by Moses, Haken learned the ways of the bounty hunter and eventually took over command of his foster father's ship, is it Crocodile, after Moses became the leader of the city of Truttlestead. Yes, that's really the name, shut up. As for his personality, Haken can only be described as one cool cat. Despite his line of work, he's surprisingly very laid back and, like Solid Snake, he actually cares deeply for the world around him. Or worlds, in this case. Needless to say, he's a great break from the old bounty hunter cliche of being all about money first, everything else later. Sure, he does have a bit of a perverted side to him, but even then he manages to keep a decent demeanor and proves to be entertaining as opposed to just awkward. Haken is also one of those characters who's a joy to watch in battle, using a specialized fighting style that revolves around his 2 signature weapons, Nightfowl, a customized assault rifle with a retractable blade, and Longtooth, a handgun with a ridiculously long barrel that can even expand further to fire up... Yeah, that. But Haken isn't in the top 3 just for a badass personality and fighting style. No. Haken Browning makes my top 3 for how he handles his character being tested, and this is the scene that seals it. Without spoiling too much, it's revealed that Haken is actually an artificially bred superhuman originally intended to lead a massive robot army against the worlds of the Endless Frontier. But instead of spending a chunk of the story moping about it or just going batshit crazy like some other characters might, Haken does something totally awesome. He more or less just brushes the whole revelation off, saying how he feels the way he's lived his life up until then is what defines him rather than just the nature of his conception. This shows just how wise Haken really is, which some might find surprising for someone of his caliber. Haken may not be one of the most well-known protagonists in gaming, but he's one of the best.
I should probably just start at the beginning. The name's Sly. Sly Cooper, and I'm a thief.
Oh hell yeah, I freaking love Sly Cooper. Ever since his debut back in 2002, the heir to the Cooper legacy has been showing the gaming world how to pull off some of the most ridiculous heists imaginable, and do it with style. That being said, Sly's no ordinary thief just looking to make a quick buck. Sly is a master thief, meaning that he only steals from other, less generous thieves around the world. I would say he's like Robin Hood, as he does, in a sense, steal from the rich and give to the poor, only the poor in this case are himself and his gang. At first, Sly might seem like your standard wisecracking sarcastic thief who can seemingly do anything, but there's actually a lot more to him than that. Not only can Sly not do everything, he knows that he can't do everything, to the point where he himself has actually called off multiple jobs when they become too far gone. Now, I know I commended other characters on this list for their determination and perseverance, but Sly's style is a little more subtle than that. Being a master thief isn't something one can just do by giving it their all. It requires a degree of precision and finesse, something Sly shows off in spades. And like I said before, Sly can't do everything, and he's fully aware of that. But what he is capable of is mind-boggling. I mean, when was the last time you saw someone taking on a giant centuries-old cyborg owl with a cool as head as this? And even with all that working for him, Sly is surprisingly level-headed for someone of his age and profession, even going so far as to work alongside some of his former enemies for the greater good, despite any personal grudges. But I think what makes Sly stand out is just how good a person he really is, which is surprising for a thief. He doesn't steal out of greed, he steals to keep the world safe. He works to take down other, more malevolent thieves. He doesn't hold himself in high regard just because of his family name, and he puts the safety of those he cares about ahead of any job, even if those he cares about work on the other side of the law.
But what's the fun in stealing if there's nobody trying to catch you?
And with a quote like that, I think it's time to wrap up. To sum things up, Sly Cooper is a suave and honorable thief that the gaming world should be proud to have as a protagonist. You may think of him as just another sneaky devil, but this devil's actions have saved the world on multiple occasions, which not only makes him a true master thief, but also a true hero. Surprised? Good, because to be honest, I kind of am too. Of all the fantastic, memorable protagonists that gaming has given us, the one that always comes to my mind first, the one I always anticipate seeing, and the one that I think when I think great female character, is none other than the First Lady of video games herself, Samus Aran. To hell with Lara Croft, Chun-Li's cool, but I don't think anyone will argue that Samus is far more compelling and infinitely more iconic. Where to freaking start? Well, how about at the beginning with some backstory, cause man, does she have a cool one. Samus was taken in and raised by the Chozo race after the murder of her parents at the hands of Ridley, a space pirate commander who would go on to become her arch-enemy. While under the Chozo's guardianship, Samus was infused with their DNA to help her easily adapt to foreign environments, and trained as a warrior, eventually being given her iconic power suit. She later went on to join the Galactic Federation's military, but defected after multiple disputes with her commanding officer, until she eventually began work as the badass freelance bounty hunter we all know and love. The funny thing is, with a backstory like that, you'd expect Samus to have turned her back on the world, being completely introverted and not giving a damn about what goes on throughout the galaxy around her. And yet, that couldn't be further from the truth. Okay, she does prefer to work alone, but just roll with me here. Despite having left the Galactic Federation, it's relatively common for Samus to work alongside them, even voluntarily coming to their aid if she happens to pick up a distress signal from them. And like Hacken, despite being a bounty hunter, Samus cares about the galaxy around her, having willingly taken extreme measures on multiple occasions to end or at least subdue threats that could very well affect not only the planets they might originate from, but even the entire galaxy itself. And with that said, it's probably worth mentioning that Samus has done some pretty amazing shit. And the most impressive part is that her greatest achievement she's done single-handedly. She's destroyed multiple heavily armed space pirate labs, killed some of the biggest monsters in all of gaming, and of course wiped out the entire species of Metroid from the galaxy. Of course, to pull these kind of feats off, Samus would have to have some pretty impressive firepower behind her, right? Well, to say that she does would be a complete understatement. Seeing Samus in action is nothing short of awe-inspiring, combining her seemingly infinitely adaptable power suit with her enormous arsenal of weapons that even Mega Man would go wide-eyed at. And she's capable of feats that most could only barely imagine. And that's exactly who Samus Aran is. She's the bounty hunter known for accomplishing the impossible. She's the fearless, determined, incredible woman who, despite her rough upbringing, went on to become one of the most skilled and recognized characters not only within her own universe, but within gaming as a whole. And to me, that is what makes Samus Aran the greatest protagonist in all of gaming. I'm the Disciple of the Hado, and until next time, see you around.